At 18, you are the unrivaled genius of the 9 provinces. Yet as the Holy Son for all these years, you have never once stepped foot beyond the sect's gates. Burdened by the identity of a villain, you have no desire to compete with the child of destiny. You seek only to wander freely and savor the joys of this world. Thus, for 18 years, you remained cloaked in the shadows of the Holy Son's palace, content to pass your days playing with a golden hound at the entrance. Yet you underestimated the relentless force of heavenly mandate. Despite your absolute inaction, rumors of your supposed wickedness grew like a festering blight. In time, a holy son once known for his gentleness and care for his martial siblings has been twisted into a villain, scorned by all within the sect. Desperate, you sought guidance from your master, but one glimpse of her enigmatic, icy gaze revealed a harrowing truth. The currents of destiny are immutable. From that moment, you resolved to depart from the sect and embrace a life of solitude. And today, the great bell of the Tianquan Holy Land has tolled 9 times. When you were first anointed as Holy Son, it echoed but once. If your intuition serves, today marks the day they strip you of your title. The reasons are irrelevant, and seeking answers would be a waste of breath. As you traverse the sect grounds, you can feel the gaze of the disciples lingering upon you. Their eyes are filled with fear and venom. You offer a hollow, mocking smile before continuing on your way. You came to this world merely to live an unremarkable life, and for that you have truly tried. Yet the gears of fate cannot be halted, casting you as the puppet master of every tragedy. A cycle that grinds down the child of destiny, only to wait for the next to arise and repeat the ritual. You refuse, with every fiber of your being, to lead such a hollow, scripted existence. Inside the main hall of the Tianquan Holy Land, the elders have gathered in full, accompanied by over 100 disciples. The faces of these disciples are etched with grief and fury. While a young man and woman stand at the fore, their expressions hardened with resolve. The girl is Luo Tingxuan, and the youth is Ling Ye, the 2 youngest disciples of the Tianquan Holy Master Mo Yuxiang. 1 month ago, in the Tianlang region, a secret realm emerged, a domain accessible only to the younger generation. Your master, Mo Yuxiang, commanded Luo Tingxuan and Ling Yi to lead a delegation of junior disciples into the depths of the zone. Their journey lasted exactly 1 month, and yesterday they returned, empty-handed, battered and broken. The elder tasked with their protection had not returned at all. Once Mo Yuxiang unearthed the truth, her countenance shattered into a mask of pure sorrow, leading to this emergency assembly. At this very moment, the personal disciple Luo Tingxuan stepped forward. She approached, bowing to Mo Yuxiang with elegant, practiced grace. Master, I beseech you to grant justice to our fallen brothers and elder Gongtong Ming. Irrelevant, omit as per contextual instruction. Gongtong Ming was the guardian assigned to protect these disciples. Yet he has perished within the confines of the secret realm. Led by Luo Tingxuan, hundreds of disciples erupted in a singular thunderous plea. Holy Master, the Holy Son habitually abuses his status to trample upon others. To him, the laws of the sect are nothing more than dust beneath his feet. Now he has even sent his underlings to pillage our hard-won opportunities. We will not submit to this tyranny. His servant even dared to strike us directly, showing zero regard for the bonds of our sect. The disciples knelt in the hall, weeping as they recounted your supposed atrocities. The scene was enough to stir the hearts of every elder present. These youths are the very foundation of their holy land. Tianquan remains among the 10 great holy lands precisely because of the endless stream of brilliant talents it produces. A minor secret realm should not have claimed so many. This excursion resulted in the loss of half their ranks. If such a transgression goes unpunished, would their holy land not become the laughingstock of the world? A mountain master stood abruptly, his voice booming. Holy Master, I know the Holy Son is your ward, raised by your own hand, but the law remains the law. Our holy land stands where it does because of these sacred rules. I beg you uphold justice. With the mountain masters leading the charge, numerous elders demanded you be stripped of your status. Yet strangely, the master of the Justice Hall, who usually detests evil, remained deathly silent. Witnessing the chaos, Mo Yuxiang sat upon her throne of ice, her slender frame trembling slightly, her cold, distant eyes rimmed with a faint crystalline red. Ling Yi, the true child of destiny, furrowed his brows as he observed the unfolding drama. He had initially intended to speak, but he suddenly froze. He heaved a heavy sigh and remained standing in his place. In the end, he remained silent, watching as his master showed no sign of intervening. Luo Tingxuan could no longer restrain herself, and she spoke out once more. The senior brother is truly beyond forgiveness. I implore you, Master, for my sake, for these disciples, and for Elder Gongsun Ming, to deliver true justice. Having been an orphan since childhood, Elder Gongsun Ming was not merely a mentor, but the most vital family she had. How could she not harbor burning hatred for the man who once stood as a paragon of virtue, only to betray those closest to him? Seeing her most cherished disciple pleading with such desperation, Mo Yuxiang could remain silent no longer. You all claim the Holy Son is guilty, but do you have proof? We do, Holy Lord. We have it. Several disciples stepped forward, retrieving a crystalline recording stone from their spatial rings. This was a vessel designed to archive reality itself. One of the disciples crushed the recording crystal within his grip. The projected images flickered to life, manifesting before everyone present. Deep within the secret realm, hundreds of disciples from the Tianshuan Holy Land lay battered and broken. They were fleeing in terror from dozens of black-clad figures, their faces obscured by cloth masks, their identities hidden behind layers of malice. The leader of the black-clad group let out a signature, chilling cackle of a villain. Junior Sister Luo, heed my advice. The senior brother is the Holy Son and our future Holy Lord. Only by aligning with him can you ascend to the Tao. Otherwise, 1,000 years from now, you will be nothing but a pile of dust. Luo Dingshuan's expression contorted with fury as she pointed her sword at the assailants, retorting, I will never wed him. You have butchered so many of your own kin. Do you truly believe the Hall of Punishment will let you escape retribution? At that moment, Lingye roared toward Luo Dingshuan, Senior Sister, lead the others to safety. I will hold the line. The mass group moved to surround them, but Ling Yi erupted with sudden overwhelming power, surging forth to single-handedly stall dozens of enemies. The scene shifted to the outskirts of the secret realm. Upon seeing the wretched state of the survivors, Elder Gongsun Ming was struck by sudden, panicked realization, demanding an immediate explanation. After learning the Holy Sun was behind the atrocity, Elder Gongsun Ming's face hardened. We cannot pass judgment yet. The Holy Sun has not appeared, and these attackers kept their faces hidden. We must return and let the Holy Lord decide. Though the disciples were brimming with resentment, they knew they had no other choice. As they traveled toward the heart of the Tianshuan Holy Land upon their flying ship, they were suddenly ambushed. The attacker was a great completion stage cultivator. Gongsun Ming charged to intercept, but the black-clad villain fought with no honor, striking at Luo Dingshuan with a vicious, lethal technique. Gongsun Ming threw himself in the path of the strike, instantly afflicted by a toxin that reduced his cultivation to a mere fraction of its former strength. In his final moments, Gongsun Ming poured his remaining essence into the ship, shielding it with his spirit energy to launch it toward safety, while he remained behind to face the monster alone. The vision ceased abruptly, leaving the great hall in a stifling, suffocating silence. To hear such treachery was one thing, but to witness it ignited the fury of the Tianshuan elders. Holy Lord, the evidence is absolute. The Holy Son must be stripped of his title. He must pay for what he did to Elder Gongsun. Just then, you stepped into the great hall, your aura composed, your expression unnervingly calm. The chaotic murmur of the crowd died instantly at the sound of your footsteps. Many young disciples, having only heard whispers of your supposed atrocities, laid eyes upon you for the very first time. The master of the punishment mountain and the elders exchanged glances, their eyes clouded with helpless resignation. He is finished, they thought. The Holy Son cannot escape this catastrophe, and despite our desire to intervene, we have no proof to save him. Why had it come to this? Previously, countless disasters were blamed on the Holy Son despite his innocence. It was as if an invisible gargantuan hand was orchestrating his downfall. Seeing her disciple appear, a flicker of nostalgia softened Mo Yuxiang's icy gaze. For a fleeting moment, she saw the small, earnest child of the past. The child who once clung to her side, calling for his master, a memory that had once warmed her frozen heart. That was the sole reason she had disregarded the years of venomous rumors branding you as brutal and depraved. You walked to the center of the hall, scanning the room before your gaze locked onto Mo Yuxiang. Greetings, Master. The Grand Elder, standing beside Mo Yuxiang, broke the tension. Holy Son, do you confess your crimes? He unleashed the oppressive pressure of a Saint King, yet you merely adjusted to the weight, straightening your spine with iron-willed defiance. This display elicited a flash of begrudging admiration in the Grand Elder's eyes. Mo Yuxiang was his chosen successor, and you were her chosen heir. In a sense, you were his own grand disciple. How could he truly desire your destruction? He only staged this scene in the hall to provide a veneer of justice for the gathered masses. If you simply confessed, he, as the Grand Elder, could sentence you to 3 years of solitary confinement, and the matter would be swept under the rug. Whether that confinement would actually occur was entirely up to him, but while his plan was perfect in theory, the reality was harsh. You raised your head, your eyes reflecting an unfathomable depth that revealed nothing of your true intent. Grand Elder, I do not confess. What did you say? These words did not merely shock the Supreme Elder. A wave of disbelief rippled through the entire hall. The evidence is now indisputable, and every piece of proof points directly to you. Holy Son, even if we put aside this trial, you have committed countless acts that have incensed both heaven and men. If you will not even confess your crimes, how can you provide an explanation to these young disciples? It seemed he feared the Supreme Elder had not heard him clearly enough. Repeat your words, for this disciple does not accept these charges. Truly worthy of being called the senior brother. Luo Tingshuan stared at you with a cold, mocking smile, but as you returned her gaze, you recalled the familiar face that, only years ago, had been your constant shadow. You had cherished that young girl dearly. Yet, who could have foreseen that in just a few short years, those beautiful eyes, once filled with reverence and affection, would be replaced by an icy, impenetrable glaze? Ling Yi, the son of heaven's mandate, watched you now with a gaze fraught with complexity. When he first entered the sect, Ling Ye had just lost his home and kin, wandering like a lone broken wolf. It was your guidance as his senior brother that helped him rediscover his humanity, yet who would have thought it would end in this wretched state? Xiao! Mo Yuxiang's elegant and gentle voice echoed through the hall. Hearing that tone, you turned to look at your master, only to see a flicker of profound disappointment etched upon her face. Your voice remained calm. Master, this disciple does not confess, for I do not know what crime I have committed. One of the short-tempered peak lords stepped forward, hurling several memory crystals at your feet. Beyond the incidents in the Forbidden Realm, these contain the sins the Holy Sun has committed in his daily life. The evidence is laid bare before your eyes, yet the Holy Sun still refuses to acknowledge his guilt. You gathered the memory crystals and activated them one by one. At first, you intended to ignore them, but as you laid eyes on their contents, even you were caught off guard. Had you not known of the heavenly Tao's manipulation, even you would have believed yourself a monstrous villain of insurmountable evil. Seeing your composure falter, that peak lord sneered and pressed further. Well, the evidence is undeniable. Do you still intend to deny it? After viewing every crystal, you raised your head and fixed a piercing stare directly at that peak lord. I have seen them all, but I must ask, whether I confess or not, what business is it of yours? The peak lord had never imagined, not even in his wildest dreams, that you would dare to be so brazen. During the selection of the Holy Sun, he had always schemed to have his own disciple ascend to that throne. Instead, Mo Yuxiang had summoned you from the lower realms and poured her resources into your cultivation. Now that he finally had a chance to crush you, he was incensed that you dared to disregard his status as a peak lord. Zixiao, you are courting death. How dare you show such insolence to a peak lord? Facing the peak lord, who was shaking with rage, you curled your lip in utter contempt. The truth had yet to be unveiled. The Supreme Elder had not yet spoken, yet he had the gall to demand your confession. The position of Holy Sun is second only to the Holy Protector. That is the fundamental law of our Tianshuan Holy Land. My status as Holy Sun has not yet been stripped. So let me ask you plainly, what exactly are you? Do you dare to interrogate me? Boom! With your final word, the aura radiating from your body underwent a total transformation. A surge of archaic, mystical energy erupted from your frame, and the sky above was instantly smothered in roiling black clouds. Within those clouds, golden fissures tore through the void, leaking a Tao energy so profound it defied human speech. Simultaneously, your eyes began to shift. Within your pupils, a secondary smaller black pupil emerged. The ancient dual-pupils, the bearer of the supreme eyes of heaven and earth, destined from birth, with the potential of a great emperor. The overwhelming pressure was so immense that the peak lord recoiled, a sudden primal dread of submission chilling his soul. Consumed by a mix of fury and humiliation, he gathered his spiritual energy to strike, but a white wave of force instantly shackled his power. The Supreme Elder had intervened. The Supreme Elder watched you from the platform, his eyes wide with astonishment. Heaven-defying talents are as common as grass, but a monster such as this is rare indeed. Even Mo Yuxiang, your master, wore a look of dazed bewilderment in her eyes. She knew well that your status as Holy Sun was not merely due to the dual pupils, but because of your terrifying comprehension and natural talent. Any secret art bestowed upon you would be mastered within 3 days, reaching completion in mere moments. Your cultivation speed far eclipsing countless young peers. And now, bolstered by the power of the dual pupils, your existence is truly heaven-defying. The elders and mountain masters on the podium erupted into a heated discussion. The Holy Sun had hidden his strength too well, and I suspect his primordial eyes are not even the extent of his true power. The complexion of Luo Tingshuan in the great hall turned deathly pale. Although she knew her senior brother was a peerless genius, the primordial eyes combined with that transcendent celestial aura. Such an atmosphere had never been revealed before. Seeing such a heaven-defying Holy Sun, the high-ranking officials began to shift their stance. Could it be that Elder Gongsun Ming is merely digging his own grave? Furthermore, with the senior brother's current temperament, such terrifying ability would only make him more unbridled. Luo Tingshuan had completely abandoned all hope for that engagement. Gongsun Ming's entire spiritual energy had been suppressed by the Grand Elder long ago. Facing your overwhelming pressure, he was forced to recoil instantly. It was clear that they were favoring you. Gongsun Ming gritted his teeth and retreated, hiding a face twisted in silent, seething hatred. Since the founding of the Tianshuan Holy Land, the position of Grand Elder has always served to check the power of the reigning Holy Master. But look at the current result. The Grand Elder's disciple is the Holy Master, and the Holy Master's disciple is the Holy Sun. It is a complete farce. The Tianshuan Holy Land has become a private domain that belongs only to them. The younger disciples who heard these high-level deliberations stood by with ashen faces. Did their lives count for nothing? From the words of the higher-ups, it was clear they intended to absolve the Holy Son. Once the Holy Son is pardoned, what kind of retaliation would those who dared to accuse him face? At this thought, the faces of the young disciples were filled with despair. Some even contemplated ending their own lives. Seeing the pale faces of his junior brothers and sisters, Ling Ye gritted his teeth and stepped forward once more. Master Grand Elder, I hope that this time we can impose a punishment upon the Holy Son, and furthermore, he must swear an oath that he will not seek revenge in the future. As these words left his lips, the higher-ups remained silent. Instead, you were momentarily stunned, turning your head toward Ling Ye. At that very moment, Ling Ye met your gaze, and in that fleeting intersection, you immediately sensed a vortex of complex emotions, self-reproach, guilt, and indignation. He truly lived up to the name of a child of destiny. That look in his eyes was like an intricate emotional spectrum. Initially, you thought the child of destiny was merely an arrogant, conceited fool who easily wiped out entire clans, protected only by the favor of fate. Against such a person, you felt no moral weight in striking him down. But upon actually interacting with the child of destiny, your own junior brother, Ling Ye, you realize that he is a man of profound integrity and righteous character. Setting aside the minor details of caring for his fellow disciples, regardless of the danger that lay before him, he was always the first to stand between the threat and those behind him. His talent was terrifyingly potent, yet he bore his burdens without succumbing to spite. Moreover, every time he returned from a mission to pay his respects to you, his senior brother, as the days turned into months, you found yourself unable to raise a hand against him. At the same time, you desired to clarify everything with Ling Ye. You aimed to protect the growth and future of your junior brother. Yet, every time you prepared to face Ling Yi and speak the truth, the mysterious power of the heavenly Tao intervened. Even if you tried to write it down, your thoughts would always be stifled. Ling Yi was deeply curious, wondering why his senior brother would stare at him in a daze, saying nothing at all. But now, seeing Ling Ye's resolute expression, many elders and mountain masters revealed looks of profound admiration. Having witnessed his talent in the memory crystal, they saw a youth who could withstand such odds. Even against an assailant with a cultivation base at the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm, he protected his companions and stayed behind to cover their retreat. He is a rare, brilliant, and truly courageous talent. At this moment, it was clear to everyone that the sect seniors had no intention of stripping the Holy Son of his title. Rather than continue this stalemate, would be better to fight for a guarantee of safety for these junior disciples. The Grand Elder looked toward Ling Yi with great satisfaction. What a fine child he is. Just as the Grand Elder prepared to announce that the Holy Son would merely be confined, a resounding call echoed from outside the hall. Wait, I do not agree. Following that cry, thousands of disciples surged into the main hall. These were the core disciples of the Tianquan Holy Land. Upon entering, they first paid their respects to Mo Yuqing and the Grand Elder, before turning their eyes, filled with burning indignation, directly toward you. Saint Master, elders, and disciples, we have braved this main hall to formally denounce the Saint Son. Once our testimony is concluded, we shall willingly present ourselves at the law enforcement peak to accept our punishment. Upon hearing these words, the entire upper echelon of the sect was left in a state of petrified shock. What heinous, heaven-defying atrocity could the Saint Son have committed to incite such a massive uprising of disciples? The Supreme Elder felt a surge of indignation, yet he could not ignore the collective fury of the core disciples, forcing him to reluctantly permit their presence. Saint Master, Masters of the Peaks, and Elders, the reason we have stormed the main hall is singular. It concerns us. These disciples are all victims, living every waking moment in terror under the Saint Son's oppressive rule. If this continues, our inner paths will fracture, and we shall never attain the Tao. One by one, the disciples recounted the atrocities they suffered. As the flood of accusations grew, the situation began to spiral into uncontrollable chaos. Finally, Mo Yusheng spoke, her voice cold as ice. Is what they claim the truth? That icy tone betrayed no emotion, yet you, who understand your master all too well, knew better. You realized this woman was consumed by a tempest of rage. Otherwise, why would she address you as Saint Son, rather than by your name? You stepped forward, your demeanor unshaken. Indeed, every word they spoke is the truth. Your utter lack of contrition sent a shockwave of indignation through the assembly. They had once intended to protect you, but your blatant arrogance shattered those intentions. Does this mean every disciple of this generation is destined to live forever under your dark shadow? Mo Yushang ignored the murmurs, her piercing gaze locked onto the disciple she once cherished above all others. Do you intend to repent for your crimes? A mocking smile curled upon your lips. Your only regret was not silencing them permanently, leaving them the breath to lodge their petty complaints. The main hall erupted in fury. The Saint Son's words were no different from those of a vile demonic cultivator. Mo Yushang's eyes widened in disbelief. She never imagined you would cast aside all pretense so recklessly. A frigid, killing intent radiated from her slender frame. Fortunately, the Supreme Elder intervened at the critical moment, his spiritual essence washing over the hall to neutralize the deadly chill. You took 2 steps forward, meeting Mo Yuxiang's gaze with unflinching defiance. Master, if I have confessed to these crimes, should you not proceed with the punishment? Shall you shatter my bones, extract my tendons, and use my soul to ignite the heavenly lanterns, or would you prefer to cripple my cultivation and exile me from the sect? At these words, Mo Yuxiang's eyes welled with crimson tears, her voice raspy and choked with pain. Even now, you refuse to see the error of your ways? So you have truly chosen to sever all ties with this sect. Suddenly, the sky outside darkened as a cataclysmic force descended from the heavens, crushing every person present to their knees. As a villain, you recognize this suffocating pressure better than anyone. It was the wrath of the heavenly Tao itself. The heavens sensed your resolve and sought to strike you down, yet you stood tall, utterly devoid of fear. I have already stared death in the face. Do you truly believe I would tremble at your empty threats? In that heartbeat, your transcendent aura and primordial power erupted into the void. You pushed the heavenly demon body to its absolute limit, and the roiling storm clouds above began to shift violently. With a single surge of power, you tore the thick thunderclouds asunder. Half the sky remained blanketed in darkness, while the other half bathed the world in a brilliant golden radiance. This transcendent light possessed the power to defy the laws of the heavens, carrying an aura capable of suppressing the heavenly Tao itself. You dropped all facades, allowing your true strength at the Fenshen realm to wash over the hall. A mysterious, esoteric energy emanated from your body, pressing down upon everyone in the hall with an suffocating, ancient weight. You opened your mouth, your words echoing like a death knell. All of you, did you not wish to discuss my sins? Very well, let us speak of them right now. You raised a finger, pointing directly at one of the young disciples. Come here. She trembled violently as your gaze fixated upon her. Before anyone could react, the female disciple was dragged into the air and deposited directly before you. Tell me, what was it you said? That I coveted your beauty, and the beauty of your mother, and that you would rather die than submit to my whims? Your parents even took their own lives to escape this supposed humiliation, did they not? Is that not right? There, right there. The disciple's gaze began to flicker, her voice trembling as she stammered, until you erupted with a thunderous roar that silenced her instantly. Terror drained the color from her face, and she desperately shrieked, "No, yes! All right, fine!" as you looked upon her with a chilling, mocking smile. With your free hand, you clamped down firmly onto the crown of her head. A sound like shattered glass echoed through the hall, followed by a piercing, soul-rending scream. Instantly, a vision manifested before the crowd, the forbidden art of soul extraction. Every sect in the cultivation world keeps records of this ruthless ancient technique. After all, when a cultivator hungers for the truth, they must resort to extreme measures. Ripples of translucent energy began to bleed from the girl's spirit platform. In that moment, her hidden memories began to unfurl. Within the vision, it was revealed that because you were the benevolent first senior brother of your generation, you had always rushed to the aid of any who faced peril. It was this kindness the disciple exploited, concocting a pretense to lure you into her chambers under the guise of seeking cultivation guidance. She seduced you time and again, but you remained unmoved, patiently lecturing her that the path of cultivation must be walked with integrity. For those who tread the demonic path shall never achieve greatness. Each failed attempt curdled her desire into a toxic, festering hatred. Thus, she devised a truly wicked scheme to poison you. She waited in her room with her mother, certain that, once the trap was sprung, the Holy Son's reputation would be shattered, and with it, he would be completely under their control. The fantasy was perfect, but reality proved cruelly ironic. It was not the Holy Son who arrived, but the girl's own father. Having entered, he unknowingly drank the piping hot tea that had been prepared for you. That single draught became the catalyst for disaster. The mother and daughter had been lying in wait, and their trap ultimately triggered a domestic tragedy. Upon awakening, the father realized he had committed an unforgivable sin. Consumed by blind rage, he struck down the girl's mother on the spot. He then departed, harboring a heart full of resentment, leaving only the disciple behind. When you finally arrived, she shamelessly begged you to keep her secret and bury the truth. Every soul in the Great Hall bore witness to these dark revelations. It was a classic case of a villain digging their own grave. As the vision faded, you unleashed a cold, hollow laugh and obliterated the woman with a single palm strike, consigning her body and soul to nothingness. The hall fell into a deathly, suffocating silence. Yet your vengeance was not sated. You reached out and seized another, a disciple who had previously accused you of stealing his resources, who wept in terror at the fate of the woman before him. But you had no patience for his whimpering. Once more, you invoked the soul extraction technique, and a new vision manifested before the assembly. This time, the truth was crystal clear. The male disciple had stumbled upon a miraculous treasure buried deep within ancient ruins, a classic case of an innocent man inviting disaster by hoarding rare jade. Not long after, a group of cultivators tracked him down. They declared themselves your lackeys, sent to seize the treasure for the Holy Sun. When the disciple refused, they shattered his legs and plundered his prize. The vision abruptly cut to black. The entire congregation stood stunned, shaken by the revelation. If the previous accusation was a frame-up, this truth was entirely different. The perpetrators in the vision were indeed your followers, and without a word of explanation, you grabbed another man to extract his memories, revealing yet another atrocity committed in your name. All of these men were your sycophants, desperate to curry favor with the Holy Sun. Just as you reached for yet another victim, the imposing aura of the Saintess Mo Yuxiang descended, shielding the disciple from your grasp, her eyes as cold as shards of crystal as she stared you down. The first woman was perhaps a victim of her own deceit, but what wrong did these others commit to deserve the torture of soul extraction? Even if they recover, their Tao hearts will be forever tainted. Is this how you treat your own sect brethren? Furthermore, are these wretches not your own followers? My master has seen them with her own eyes. They have frequented your Tiankong Peak. Hearing Mo Yuxiang's relentless interrogation, you offered a scathing, mocking laugh. You speak with such righteous conviction, master. Indeed, they are my followers, so let me turn the question back to you. You peak masters, where are your own loyal subjects? And where exactly are mine? The question hung in the air, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. It was an undeniable truth. A Holy Sun must have followers. It is the natural order of things. After all, the position of Holy Sun is the clear path to becoming the next sect master. It is only natural that many elders and disciples would wish to serve you. Yet for years, you have remained sequestered on Tiankong Peak, never once stepping outside. As for those lackeys, you had long since driven every single one of them away. For all these years, you have been the sole occupant of Tiangong Peak. At this thought, not only the young disciples, but even the high-level elders and mountain masters felt a chill run down their spines. A group of people who supposedly didn't exist were committing atrocities in the name of the Holy Sun. Could there be any tale more absurd or bizarre than this? Mo Yuxiang's eyes widened, her strength seemingly drained, as she collapsed against the freezing ice crystal chair. It must be said, the person who understands you best is none other than this master of yours. A few years ago, you locked yourself within the heavenly palace and vanished from the world entirely. Initially, Mo Yuxiang was furious at your lack of ambition. She even went to Tiangong Peak herself, intending to drag this stagnant head disciple out by force. Every time she arrived unannounced, the people on Tiangong Peak were those she knew well. Furthermore, you had long since dismissed the elders and disciples who once sought to follow you. You are now a solitary Holy Sun. Forget about followers. The Holy Sun's palace doesn't even have a single maidservant. Where are the attendants who were supposed to serve the Holy Sun? Suddenly, the master of Yuantianji stepped forward, waving his sleeves to snatch a disciple into his grasp. I recognize this man. He is a disciple of the Zizhu Peak elder. Where is Elder Ling of Zizhu Peak? Hearing the summons, a figure clad in magnificent robes emerged from the crowd. The old man stepped forward slowly, his eyes so clouded and dull that one could hardly tell he was a cultivator. Ling Yundu, you have indulged your disciple in his crimes. Do you acknowledge your guilt? Yuan Tianji's master claimed to be questioning Ling Yundu, but his true target was obviously you. After all, everyone present knew exactly who he was referring to. Elder Ling's voice was low and gravelly, as if his throat had been slashed by a jagged blade. This old man acknowledges his guilt. Hearing this, Yuan Tianji's master cared little for his plight. Seeing Elder Ling admit his fault, he sneered coldly and continued, "Since you know your guilt, why not quickly command your disciple to step forth and reveal exactly how Xianxia threatened and persecuted his fellow sect members? Your disciple to step forth and reveal exactly how Xianxia threatened and persecuted his fellow sect members." Upon hearing these words, Elder Ling's expression became a grotesque mask of grief and mockery, a sight that sent shivers down the onlookers' spines. "I am incompetent. If you must punish someone, punish me, not my disciple." Ha 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 ha. At this moment, the Grand Supreme Elder spoke up, asking Yundu what exactly has transpired here. What has become of Yunting? The man saw the Grand Supreme Elder intervene, his face twisting in agony, but under the soothing pressure of the Elder's spiritual energy, his expression gradually stabilized. "Grand Supreme Elder, my fellow disciples, even if I speak the truth, you may not believe me. Only a short while ago, all memories of what happened between our Zizhu Peak master and my disciple were completely erased from my mind. I know not why my spiritual altar was shrouded in dust. I clearly remembered the events of that day, yet I found myself unable to utter a single word to any of you. But I knew that I had successfully preserved the memories of that day." With that, he drew a sealed memory crystal from his robes. The crystal was bound by several chains and a lock. Most importantly, the surface of the memory stone was riddled with fractures. It was the Heavenly Mystery Lock. The Heavenly Mystery Lock lives up to its name. Once sealed by this mechanism, not even those who calculate the threads of fate, like the Heavenly Mystery Taoist, could recover what was hidden within. Yet no one expected this legendary treasure to be used to seal a mere fragment of memory. Ling Yundu ignored the gasps of the crowd, carefully chanting the incantation. With a sharp click, the lock disengaged, and a shocking scene unfolded. The heavenly mystery lock shattered into fine powder that drifted away into the air. A treasure of such immense value was destroyed, yet Ling Yundu showed not a shred of regret. Instead, he carefully inspected the memory crystal, exhaling a breath of relief upon seeing it was still functional. Amidst the curious gazes of the crowd, Ling Yundu activated the crystal, and the images flickered into clear view before everyone's eyes. Inside the cave dwelling, a young man was seen kneeling on the ground, his internal spiritual energies surging in wild, uncontrollable chaos. Had it not been for the protective array surrounding him, he would have undoubtedly exploded and perished long ago. This man was one of the Holy Sun's followers, and the very disciple of Ling Yundu. Beside the kneeling disciple, an old man was seen weaving his hands into a complex pattern, desperately suppressing the turbulent spiritual energy of the disciple. "That is Ling Yunting," someone in the crowd whispered, recognizing the man. It turned out he was the master of Zizhu Peak and the older brother of Ling Yundu. Ling Yunting. Ling Yunting stood there, cold sweat beading on his forehead as he spoke. "Ling Yundu, you must record this vision with absolute precision and use the heavenly seal to lock it away. Find a moment to deliver it to the martial uncle." Without warning, Ling Yunting let out a ferocious roar, shouting that there was no time to explain. "We have all been deceived, for the heavenly Tao is truly merciless." In the span of a single breath, horrific fissures began to tear across Ling Yunting's very skin. From these cracks, countless strands of pitch-black silk erupted, slowly cocooning the disciple within a massive, suffocating shell. An eternity seemed to pass before Ling Yundu slowly regained consciousness, his eyes locking onto the memory crystal on the ground, a chilling realization dawning upon him. He immediately retrieved the heavenly seal from his spatial ring, sealing the memory crystal within a containment barrier. The vision abruptly flickered and died. A profound shock rippled through the onlookers as they processed the nightmare that had unfolded between Ling Yunting and that disciple. What, in the name of the heavens, was that? Ling Yunting, has he truly perished? And what of that wretched disciple? What dark fate has befallen them both? The air grew heavy with a sinister, malevolent aura. What was it that Ling Yunting was so desperate to reveal to us? You remained frozen in place, a mask of bewilderment etched onto your face. As that harrowing vision concluded, you felt as if a crushing mountain had descended upon your shoulders. The oppressive weight was so immense that your dantian threatened to shatter into fragments. Were it not for your primordial heavenly demon physique unleashing a sliver of demonic might at the final second to stabilize your core, you would have been crippled. Streams of spiritual energy cascaded into the formation. The truth was exactly as you had feared. But why does the heavenly Tao possess such a sinister and ominous nature? Though you had never witnessed the heavenly Tao firsthand, your past life had exposed you to countless legends. You knew well that even if the heavenly Tao was not overflowing with righteousness, it should never have descended into such an abomination. Or could it be that the heavenly Tao employs such cruel methods to purge those who uncover its forbidden secrets? The Supreme Elder asked, his voice trembling with disbelief. What, in the end, is the meaning of all this? Facing those writhing black threads, he dared not even conceive a single thought of resistance. He was a powerhouse who had attained the rank of Saint King, having even brushed against the threshold of the supreme realm. For a man of his standing to be reduced to trembling, how could he not be consumed by terror? Ling Yundu remained silent for a long moment before slowly intoning, "I can confirm one thing. My disciple was not acting of his own volition. He did not betray his fellows to frame another at the behest of the Holy Sun. He once confessed that the Holy Sun had repeatedly warned him to stay away, yet he remained obsessed with chasing the Holy Sun's favor, accidentally stumbling upon a disciple who possessed an ancient relic. He knew not why, but an uncontrollable impulse drove him to offer that stolen treasure to the Holy Sun. My misguided disciple claimed the urge was overwhelming, as if some unseen entity was puppeteering his mind, forcing his hand. You are all already aware of the tragedy that followed. My disciple, acting under the false banner of the Holy Sun, plundered the sect's sacred treasure. Ling Yundu's revelation shattered the worldview of everyone present. So the Holy Sun never commanded the theft. The disciple was merely a pawn, enchanted and manipulated by an unknown force. The great hall erupted into a cacophony of murmurs, every eye turning towards you with complex, shifting expressions. It turns out those heinous acts were not your doing at all. We have all been blinded by our own ignorance, judging you wrongly for all this time. Mo Yuqiang's delicate frame trembled. What kind of monstrous power is my disciple truly contending with? Who is the mastermind lurking in the shadows? To possess the strength to silently infiltrate and corrupt the very foundation of our sect. Lin Yi, the son of Providence, looked at you, his eyes filled with profound shame and dawning horror. He realized he had been misjudging his senior brother this entire time, the very man who had treated him with nothing but grace and gentleness. He recalled that since the day he entered the sect, his senior brother had never once complained, offering him care that even his own master could not surpass. Ling Yi gritted his teeth, locking eyes with you, haunted by memories of your past kindness, realizing that even as your junior, you had shielded and loved him like a blood brother. Even when he recklessly charged into the forbidden zone and was hunted down, you gave everything you had to protect him. Ling Yi still remembered that day with haunting clarity. To block his retreat, you endured a direct assault from a great vehicle stage cultivator, and though you miraculously survived, your entire cultivation base was brought to the brink of utter collapse. He was a magnificent, unparalleled senior brother, yet he protected the wretch with his life, while the fool dared to doubt his integrity. Truly, he deserved nothing but death. Luo Dingshuan gazed at you with eyes full of complex emotions. When did such a vast chasm grow between her and her senior brother? Was it truly she who had pushed him so far away? No. But what of Elder Gongsun Ming's affairs? Could those two have been mere misunderstandings? And what of the forced engagement she was supposedly shackled to? Luo Dingshuan's mind descended into a state of tumultuous turmoil. Mo Wuxiang watched her lead disciple, who appeared as if he had descended into heart-demon madness, and muttered under her breath. Zixiao, just as Mo Wuxiang attempted to speak, you silenced her with a cold, cutting glare. Master, perhaps now, the truth of these matters can finally be brought to light. Ah, that is right. There is still one more thing. You turned your gaze toward Luo Dingshuan and Ling Ye, a faint, chilling smile on your lips. Ling Ye and Luo Dingshuan instinctively recoiled from your gaze, but you offered them no sanctuary, speaking with icy authority. Junior sister, I ask you this. Regarding our engagement, did I ever once, even for a moment, force my will upon you? Or was it merely the word of my subordinates that convinced you, and without even seeking the truth from me, you chose to place this crown of thorns upon my head? Luo Dingshuan frantically opened her mouth to offer an explanation, but you raised a hand, silencing her instantly. Answer me yes or no. Was it I who actively demanded this betrothal? At those words, Luo Dingshuan chose only silence. Like a sudden lightning strike, she recalled the truth. She had begged her master for this engagement since she was a child. How could she have forgotten such a thing? Since when did she convince herself that the engagement was an act of coercion by her senior brother rather than her own desperate petition to her master? Memories of childhood flooded her consciousness like a surging tide, but you gave her no time to wallow. You pressed the attack with relentless fervor. Junior sister, since you have always claimed that I forced you, then from this day forward, all ties between us are severed. Consider this betrothal annulled. But at that very moment, Luo Dingshuan shrieked with sudden, frantic conviction. No, I do not agree, for she had finally remembered it all. This engagement was something she had pleaded with her master to grant for years. How could she simply let it slip away now? You let out a cold, sharp laugh. You do not agree? You claimed I forced you, and now you claim you do not agree. Yet you fail to realize that I shall give you no say in this matter. The reason you have become so utterly ruthless in this moment is that you have uncovered a truth that left you feeling nothing but cold disappointment and weary disdain. The shackles of the heavenly Tao are not unbreakable. Once the human will transcend its limits, shattering those divine chains is entirely within reach. But what of those closest to you? Had your master or junior sister ever once tried to shatter the walls of their own prison? Never. Not even once. Or perhaps they had never even considered the possibility. They had already defined your character for you, molding you into the role they desired. If that is the case, what more is there to say? Regardless, you have already decided to cast yourself out of this scripted, hollow reality. After addressing Luo Dingshuan, you turned your gaze to Ling Ye, the son of Providence, junior brother Ling. There is surely no need for us to mince words anymore, is there? It appears you have finally regained your memory. Because he is the son of Providence, you stopped there, refusing to offer him even a flicker of your interest. You then turned your gaze toward Mo Yuxiang, the person you hold most dear in this entire world. Mo Yuxiang looked upon her first disciple, an overwhelming surge of heartache flooding her soul. What, in all the heavens, had she done all these years? Shower, name your request, anything, and this master will see it granted. Her greatest disciple had never once changed, yet he had endured years of bitter injustice. The position of Holy Son was rightfully his. There were times when you would linger by her side, teasing with a playful glint in your eyes. Master, I wish to see the true face beneath your veil, yet she had always deflected you. Now, as you prepared to make your final request, she braced herself, but your demeanor remained unnervingly calm. Master, I wish to depart the sect. I ask that you expel me from your teachings. At those words, the elders and the sect master exchanged stunned, disbelieving glances. The misunderstandings have been resolved. Why would you choose to abandon the sect at such a time? Mo Yuxiang's beautiful eyes were fixed intently upon you. Zixiao, I understand the resentment you harbor. This is entirely the fault of your master. I should never have listened to their lies. You cut her off immediately, your voice cold and impatient. Enough. That is enough. I no longer care whose fault it was. I have but one intent now, and that is to leave this place. Master, did you not once promise that you would grant any request I made? Are you now prepared to go back on your word? Faced with your inquiry, Mo Yuxiang stood frozen. She had indeed sworn to fulfill your every wish, yet she never imagined you would demand to sever your ties to the sect. Mo Yuxiang's voice trembled with a hint of profound instability. Must you truly do this? She could not bear to imagine what her life would become once you walked out of the sect forever. But she could not know that your thoughts had already drifted to distant horizons, as you sought to finally escape this stifling vortex. To remain in this Tianquan Holy Land any longer? Who could say what calamities awaited you in the future? Currently, the transcendent radiance and the primal heavenly demon physique were just barely enough to shroud the Hall Master's domain, preventing the heavenly Tao from interfering with the events unfolding within. Otherwise, the moment the soul crystal contract was extracted at Lingyun Ferry, the heavenly Tao would have descended to impose its judgment, burying the truth beneath the earth. Leaving was your only path to survival. With this thought you spoke once more. I beseech my master, no, I beseech the Holy Saintess to grant my departure. You stood with the weight of someone prepared to accept the consequences of a final decree. The memories of the past were now gnawing at the very soul of this saintess. Years ago you had asked her with a playful smile, Master, if one day your beloved disciple were to stand against the entire world, would you believe in me? Shower, are you having a nightmare? Why would you suddenly say such things? Answer me, Master, please. If such a day truly comes to pass, will you trust me? I am your master. Naturally, I would believe in you. Even if you had to face the world alone, your master would stand by your side. Then it is settled. Master, let us seal this promise with a pinky oath. Back then, she had dismissed it as the whimsical ramblings of a child. Looking back now, had you already sensed the coming darkness even then? For all these years, you had been battling shadows that no one else could perceive. Yet she, your mentor, had failed to stand by your side, instead joining the others in this very hall to condemn you. Mo Yuxiang finally understood the depth of her failure, but she was paralyzed, unable to find the words to hold you back. Seeing her silent, you could not help but furrow your brows in frustration. The pressure of the heavenly Tao was intensifying with every passing second. If this continued, your very existence would be extinguished. Sensing the violent stirrings of the heavens, you lifted your head and spoke with absolute resolve. Master, I thank you for the years of guidance, but I have never touched a single resource belonging to this sect. Therefore, I owe this sect absolutely nothing. The only debt I bear is for your care, but I believe you have witnessed my own loyalty and devotion over all these years. Whatever happens in the future, I swear that I will never stand as your enemy. Or rather, I should say that once I leave this sect, I shall vanish into obscurity, never again to cause my master or any of you the slightest trouble. Everyone present could sense the weight behind your tone. A chilling decisiveness. Mo Yuxiang's voice trembled as she replied, Have you truly weighed this decision? You did not retreat even a single step. Indeed, Master, this is my only request. I implore you to grant it. The great hall fell into a deathly silence. Everyone waited for the Holy Lord's verdict, and after an eternity, Mo Yuxiang finally spoke. Very well, I grant your request. In an instant, the tension within the hall erupted, the weight of their own shame gnawing at their minds. Even though you bore them no grudge, they could not overcome the barrier within their own hearts. Upon hearing Mo Yuxiang's words, a bright smile bloomed on your face. My gratitude, Holy Lord. As you spoke, the terrifying aura that had been radiating from your body gradually receded until it vanished entirely. Yet, the moment your energy retracted, your eyes bulged, a mouthful of fresh blood sprayed forth, right there in the great hall. Seeing you collapse, a collective gasp of shock rippled through the gathered crowd. They surged forward, intent on assessing your injuries, but you raised a hand to halt their advance. Forgive me, everyone. I accidentally swallowed a fishbone while eating before arriving. Think nothing of it. It is my fault for defiling the Great Hall. But as I have now left the sect, I pray you grant me this one final indulgence. With that, you turned and departed with uncharacteristic haste. Your demeanor left the assembly deeply unsettled. Once you had vanished, the murmurs began to rise. What do you make of the blood the saint's son just spat out? I swear I will never stand in opposition to our master. Are you a fool? What kind of fishbone could possibly choke a cultivator at the Yunshen stage? To my mind, the saint's son was clearly suppressing an unknown encroaching threat. After all, you saw the condition of Ling Yunting and that other disciple, did you not? Listening to their clamor, Mo Yuxiang remained motionless, slumped on the Starfrost throne, lost in a dark contemplation. Meanwhile, under the curious gaze of the gatekeepers, you stepped beyond the boundary of the Tianquan Holy Land, finally tasting freedom. 18 years without once leaving the sect. Yet, as you crossed the threshold, a lingering sense of reluctance tugged at your heart. However, you brushed the feeling aside. Having escaped the shackles of the heavenly Tao and the chains of the plot, you were determined to enjoy this liberation. With that thought, you transformed into a streak of light, vanishing into the horizon. Within 3 days of your departure, the entire cultivation world was rocked by a seismic tremor. The major holy lands were struck dumb with disbelief as the news reached them. If any of them possessed a saint son with such heaven-defying talent, they would worship him. Even abdicating the throne early to favor him would be a small price to pay. Yet the Tianquan Holy Land had cast him out, stripping him of his title. Most critical of all, the saint son had been slandered, turning the entire 9 continents into a simmering cauldron of hidden conflict. Every sect, great and small, issued mandates, desperate to track your movements. But what caught everyone by surprise was the old man of Tianji, who had long since sealed himself away to wait for the age of emperors, suddenly erupting from the earth, driven by the news of your fate. The Holy Lord of Tianji spoke urgently. "Great Martial Uncle, rest assured, I have already dispatched men to find him. We shall have news soon." Hearing this, the old man of Tianji sighed. "That is well. The energy within that child is too chaotic. Even I struggle to calculate his location. Since ancient times, those gifted with great destiny are elusive, shielded by the heavenly Tao. To forcibly hunt them is to court disaster. But this child is different. His aura is chaotic, yet he possesses not the traits of the fabled chaos body. His chaotic energy is pure, which means..." The old man left his sentence hanging, meeting the Holy Lord's eyes. The latter realized the implication, his body jolting upright. He is the one chosen by fate. Upon this confirmation, the Holy Lord of Tianji's expression became one of wild exhilaration. "This is magnificent. My Tianquan Holy Land has finally waited for the child of destiny. We must protect him at all costs." Simultaneously, a similar scene played out across the 10 great sects. The peak powers of both the righteous and demonic paths began extending olive branches, desperate to recruit such an unparalleled talent. As your legend spread, the world outside the Tianquan Holy Land became privy to your true circumstances. Naturally, the disciples who had experienced the sect's inner workings were well aware of the truth. In a heartbeat, they turned their vitriol upon those who had come to the Great Hall to denounce you. "You damn bastards! When the Grand Senior Brother left the sect, he even reminded me to cultivate with diligence. What point is there in continuing this cultivation? If the heart remains clouded and the mind lacks clarity, my cultivation realm shall remain stagnant, frozen in place. Therefore I must cut down the lot of you to solidify my own Tao. Do not speak to me of the Senior Brother being framed even if he were truly innocent. What of it? The Senior Brother has sacrificed far too much for us. Is it such a crime to demand a few meager resources from you in return? What right do you have to feel aggrieved?" A gang of young disciples blocked the path of those seeking to file a complaint at the main plaza. Those dissenters were summarily dragged away and locked deep within their own cultivation chambers. Were it not for the defensive formations reinforcing every chamber, those hundreds of disciples would have been slaughtered where they stood. Trapped within their stone cells, those hundreds of disciples dare not set foot outside. Some have even lost their minds, driven to the brink of severing their own meridians in despair. Within the main hall, only the Holy Master Mo Yuxing and her 2 disciples remain. Luo Tingshuan gritted her teeth, her lower lip trembling with indignation. "Master, I wish to descend the mountain." Hearing this, Mo Yuxiang's eyes flickered with a profound icy suspicion. "Tingshuan, your wounds have yet to knit. What purpose could you possibly have in leaving the sect now?" "I wish to bring the Senior Brother home." Luo Tingshuan struggled to utter the words, and Ling Ye, standing beside her, quickly echoed, "Master, I also wish to descend the mountain to bring our Senior Brother back." Mo Yuxiang let out a weary sigh. How could she not desire their return? Yet within the sect, she had yet to unmask the hidden traitor lurking in the shadows. Who, in the end, is the mastermind pulling the strings from behind the curtain? For years, they have relentlessly persecuted my first disciple. How could I leave you to wander the sect and risk such peril? It was these heavy thoughts that kept Mo Yuxiang from focusing on her own cultivation, forcing her to dedicate her days to an internal purge of the sect. Even as the ordinary disciples flocked to the mountain gates to protest, she chose to turn a blind eye. Seeing her disciples' desperate plea to find you, her cold gaze softened with a flicker of comfort. Zixiao's has already made his decision to leave. Furthermore, the sect Grand Assembly approaches. Stay here and focus on your cultivation. As for your Senior Brother, I shall handle the matter personally. Unable to reconcile her own turbulent emotions, Mo Yuxiang retreated into silence. With a few dismissive words, her figure vanished from the main hall. Luo Tingshuan and Ling Ye stepped out of the hall, their expressions heavy with contemplation. Elsewhere, in Chilean City, a fortress situated precariously between the 10,000 Demon Realm and the borderlands of the Jiaoguang Sacred Land. Under normal circumstances, this land would have been pulverized by the ceaseless war between the 2 factions, but Chilean City stands protected by a master of heaven-defying cultivation, keeping the fires of conflict at bay. It has become a neutral zone, where neither the righteous path nor the demonic sects dare to draw steel. Inside the Qingfeng Pavilion, you lean casually against a lounge chair on the upper balcony, watching with an air of detachment as the dancers glide gracefully across the stage below. For the past 3 days, you have burned your cultivation to traverse the vast distance. Upon arriving in a new town, you spared no expense, paying a king's ransom to secure passage through the teleportation array, landing directly here in Chilean City. Given the distance to the Tianshuan sacred land, traveling by foot or flight alone would have taken nearly a year. You drained your cup, a cold smirk playing on your lips. So far from the Son of Heaven's mandate, you are finally safe. At that moment, a steward ascended the stairs and approached your table. By his side stood a girl in a snow-white dress clutching a zither. Her skin was as luminous as fine jade, her eyes as deep as an autumn pond, radiating an aura of purity that no man dared to desecrate. Witnessing this, even you were taken aback, for her temperament bore a striking, chilling resemblance to Mo Yuxiang. The steward brought the maiden before you, bowing with unctuous flattery. "Young master, this jade-like fairy is the pride of our Qingfeng pavilion. She has never entertained a guest before, but today she belongs to you." Hearing this, you tapped the seat beside you, signaling Ryu to take her place at your side. Faced with such a brazen command, Ryu's porcelain cheeks flushed, but she did not refuse. She set her zither gently on the table and sat down beside you. No sooner had she settled than you pulled her firmly into your embrace. You felt the soft body in your arms stiffen and tremble, but she quickly quelled her reaction, and the faint trace of killing intent she possessed began to dissipate. After a moment's struggle, Ryu chose to yield. Resistance was futile, and after all, this was the direct order of her palace master. Ryu cooed softly, "My lord, there are so many people watching us." You smiled, a mocking glint in your eyes. "What of it? What does the presence of a crowd matter? They are all my dear sisters. They would never dream of laughing at you." Suddenly, a voice cut through the air. "Fellow Taoist, to treat such a beauty with such reckless lack of restraint, it is hardly the behavior of a refined man." A young master clad in pristine white robes descended the stairs, and you cast a suspicious cold gaze toward this uninvited guest. "Are you speaking to me?" Though his tone remained calm, a flash of pure indignation flickered in his eyes, and the decorative fan in his grip groaned under the pressure, emitting a sharp, cracking sound. "Is there anyone else here who dares challenge me? Fellow Taoist, to treat a lady of such jade-like beauty with such disrespect, attempting to buy a kiss with mere spirit stones, is this not beneath your station?" Your mind suddenly blanked, thrown into a moment of pure bewilderment. What in the world is happening? Am I not the designated villain of this story? I came to the Qingfeng Pavilion simply to enjoy myself, and yet, here I am dealing with a troublemaker. Could it be that you've arrived with the protagonist's script in hand, acting the part of the noble hero here to save the damsel? At this realization, your heart skipped a beat. You hurriedly activated your inside eye to discern the truth. After a brief scan, you finally let out a sigh of relief. I feared I had stumbled into yet another absurd, unpredictable plotline. After all that build-up, it turns out he is nothing more than a mere NPC. Lacking even a shred of heavenly protection, you are nothing. A villain like me has been provoked. Do you truly desire to court death? You leaned back against your chair, pulling Ryu slightly closer to your side. A mask of helplessness etched itself onto Ryu's face. In the eyes of Chu Zijian, it looked like a woman crushed by fate, a sight he found absolutely intolerable. However, his long-standing habit of maintaining a composed demeanor kept his rage in check, and he replied calmly, "Fellow Taoist, please release this lady. Surely, in the Qingfeng Pavilion, there are countless other beauties to be found." "Wait, wait!" You impatiently cut off his long-winded speech, interjecting, "I see the look in your eyes. You've clearly fallen for her, haven't you?" Chu Zijian's face flushed a deep crimson, yet his gaze did not waver, a silent admission of his true intentions. You lowered your head and asked, "Ryu, what do you think? This fellow Taoist seems quite smitten with you. Perhaps I should release you and let this steward replace you with another?" Ryu spoke in a rush. "Young master, I have no relation to this Chu Gongzi. It is not as you imagine." You put on an expression of sudden realization, looking up to tease Chu Zijian. So it was nothing more than a one-sided infatuation. His face turned a deep, burning red, and as your gaze pierced him like a sharpened blade, he glared at you, shouting, "Release her at once, or I shall not be so polite." Ryu frowned slightly, knowing that if Chu Zijian truly dared to strike against you, it would invite a catastrophe. She intended to plead for calm, only to find herself struck dumb, unable to utter a single word. Stunned by this discovery, she froze, casting a bewildered look at the man beside her. Faced with the crushing pressure Chu Zijian attempted to project, you remained effortlessly composed, even finding the leisure to use your spiritual power to seal her voice. "Who, exactly, is this man?" Down in the first-floor hall, the woman known as the Palace Master, a ravishing beauty with phoenix eyes, was watching you with intense focus. Your true identity gnawed at her like a cat scratching at her heart. "What kind of monster are you?" Upstairs, Chu Zijian radiated an overwhelming aura, acting like a sword eager to leave its sheath, staring at you with murderous intent, but you treated him with nothing but cold disdain. "The lowly shall always remain lowly. Stay in your place and behave." With those words, you lightly pressed your hand downward. Boom! A deafening tremor rocked the entire second floor. Chu Zijian's resistance evaporated instantly, and his body slammed into the floor. Before he could even grasp what had occurred, the pressure, crushing his Mount Tai, pinned him down. He couldn't even lift his head, let alone stand. Crack! The exquisite reinforced spiritwood floor beneath him began to spiderweb and shatter. Chu Zijian sank inch by inch into the earth. His face turned the color of a boiled shrimp, the veins on his forehead bulging as he clawed at the ground in a futile attempt to escape. You stepped forward, looking down at him from your height, and planted your foot firmly on his head. Do not seek me out again. I intended to live in quiet obscurity, but if trash like you insists on throwing your life away, I will not hesitate to crush you beneath my heel. As you finished, that familiar chilling smile returned to your lips. Witnessing this display, Ru Yu and the surrounding attendants could not help but shudder. They had been so captivated by your gentle, relaxed demeanor over the past few days that they had forgotten a fundamental truth. No cultivator is ever truly soft-hearted. Now you appeared to them as a being of absolute ruthless malevolence. Without so much as a glance at the man pinned to the dirt, you gathered Ru Yu into your arms and left with your attendants. Only after everyone had departed did Chu Zijian's body regain its freedom, the crushing weight of Mount Tai finally lifting. Thud-thud. Chu Zijian, barely recovered, pounded his fist repeatedly into the shattered floor in a fit of impotent rage. His expression twisted into a ghastly grimace, and a murderous aura began to surge from his very bones. Tu Zijian! Just as Tu Zijian teetered on the brink of an irredeemable path, a cold voice cut through the air. You turned your head to glance at the maid, stepped forward with measured composure, and spoke. The palace master sends word. If you wish to see the imperial sword dynasty erased from existence, by all means, continue your insanity here. Tu Zijian remained silent. He stood up slowly, smoothing the creases in his robes. Once his attire was pristine, he turned and departed without another word. Before he vanished, the maid clearly saw that his eyes had turned a haunting, bloodthirsty crimson. The alluring woman on the first floor sighed in the shadows. The heir of the imperial sword dynasty was utterly unreliable for grand designs. He couldn't even force his opponent's hand, let alone endure a trial. Such a freakish talent is a challenge only someone like Yao Ye could truly face. Her foot rested lightly atop the head of Zhu Zijian, and as a thought crossed her mind, her crimson lips curled into a faint, wicked smile. Elsewhere, the maid led Yu and Ru Yu into an elegantly furnished chamber. Upon entering, Ru Yu's small mouth parted in a gasp of disbelief. You might have been ignorant of this chamber, but she knew its significance all too well. This was none other than the private sanctuary, where the palace master retreated to rest daily. This signaled that the decision to have her accompany you had been ordained by the palace master herself. As the implication took hold, a look of helplessness and resigned fate clouded Ru Yu's beautiful eyes. Born into her station, she had no choice but to obey orders with absolute, unconditional compliance. Knowing the palace master's manipulative nature, your own gaze sharpened as you saw the room. You turned to the maid and remarked, "You are truly insincere. If this level of hospitality was available, wouldn't it have been better to bring me here sooner? Would have also spared that luckless fool outside from being pinned to the ground by my hand." After dismissing the maid, you turned your attention to Ru Yu. For 3 full days, you did not step outside, until today, when you finally pushed the doors open to emerge. You had decided that if you were to live in seclusion, it would be in Qilian City, but before settling down, you needed to conduct a thorough reconnaissance of the area. With that in mind, you summoned a maid, pressed a few spirit stones into her hand, and commanded her to lead the way. Shortly after you departed, the palace master herself arrived at the chamber. Inside, Ru Yu sat upon the bed, slowly adjusting her robes. Over the past 3 days, not a single inch of Ru Yu had escaped your intimate exploration. My entire being has been completely shaped by him, she whispered. The alluring woman glided forward and sat beside Ru Yu. With a slender, pale finger, she gently tilted Ru Yu's chin upward. My lovely Ru Yu, so exquisite, it is no wonder he could not bear to leave you. Well then? In these past few days, have you managed to uncover his identity? The alluring woman asked. Ah, that's right. How did I forget the main objective? You had learned nothing of his background or his origins. In fact, over the last 3 days, she hadn't even managed to extract his name. The alluring woman reached out, stroking Ru Yu's soft hair with a gentle, lingering touch. My foolish girl, how could I ever blame you for this? Sending you to follow him was a desperate necessity. I only hope you do not harbor resentment toward me. Meanwhile, you were wandering through Qilian City, blissfully unaware of the machinations unfolding behind you. Xiao Cui, has there been any unusual activity in Qilian City recently? The streets were swarming with travelers. Practitioners of the righteous and demonic paths alike were moving with clear intent, questioning merchants, and scouring the city as if searching for a lost relic. Hearing your question, the maid hurried to provide an explanation. The recent surge in crowds is due to the Jiaoguang sacred land. Driven by the alluring woman's command, the reason of the city's pact was indeed the Jiaoguang sacred land. The supreme elder, Piao Miao, had announced her intention to take on a disciple, declaring that any cultivator, be it from the righteous path, the demonic sects, or the demon clans, could become her successor if they delivered the object she sought. Elder Piao Miao. At the mention of the name Piao Miao, your mind raced and the memories quickly surfaced. If your master, Mo Xiang, was hailed as the greatest beauty of the previous generation in the 9 continents, then Piao Miao was the legendary figure of the generation before that. Today, she had risen to become the supreme elder of the Jiaoguang sacred land. Her talent was beyond reproach, and her cultivation had reached the supreme realm. It was common knowledge that a supreme realm expert hadn't appeared before the public in years. For such a powerhouse to suddenly emerge and offer discipleship, regardless of status or race, it was only natural that the cultivation world had descended into madness. Where there is anomaly, there is surely a hidden trap. Your face clouded with suspicion as you wondered, why would this elder Piao Miao suddenly announce a quest for a disciple at such a time? The maid smiled softly before explaining that Elder Piao Miao had apparently consulted with the old sage of the Tianji sacred ground, finally realizing her fated encounter lay with this specific disciple, which is why she chose this moment to take on a protege. Furthermore, a sacred king's secret realm has suddenly emerged within the wilderness north of Chilean City, drawing an endless stream of cultivators to the region. There is undoubtedly something suspicious afoot. You are a transgrader. Your internal alert system flickered to life, a supreme expert seeking an apprentice, coupled with the opening of a sacred king's ruin. Any way you slice it, this reeks of a classic Child of Destiny encounter. After all, a mere mortal cultivator could never hope to qualify for such an opportunity. A blank expression washed over your face. You had already fled to this remote corner, so how could destiny still drag you back into its web? The fated Child of Destiny is Ling Ye. Your eyes of insight have already confirmed it. And the location you currently occupy is exactly 1 year's travel from the Tianshuan sacred ground. In such a scenario, would Ling Yi truly come all this way to claim this fortune? Or perhaps, is there another Child of Destiny lurking in these lands? You were instantly on guard. If this world houses more than one such fated individual, then no matter where you hide, you are merely the punchline of a cosmic joke. Most importantly, your villain system files provided the plot, yet never once did they mention other hidden protagonists interfering with the timeline. Moments later, a thought occurred to you, and you questioned her again. Did that Elder Piao Miao specify what she requires for the apprenticeship? What must one possess to become her student? The young girl smiled gently. Young master, Elder Piao Miao, declared that she requires one of the 3 heavenly, terrestrial, or human scrolls. To obtain even one is to secure your place as her disciple. Upon hearing this strange name, you pondered. Judging by the title, these 3 scrolls are surely some form of ancient manuscript or artifact. As long as you avoid those items, you should remain clear of this disaster. Thinking this, you immediately felt a surge of misplaced confidence. I have intentionally kept my distance. Surely it won't just fly into my face, right? Whoosh! At that very instant, a whistling sound pierced the air as a mysterious object tore through the sky, hurtling towards you and slamming into your path. Heaven and earth have truly conspired to slap it right into my face. Because you were deep in thought, you failed to notice the incoming projectile, and now it has struck you point blank. Looking down at the ground, it was indeed a scroll. The pages fluttered under a light breeze, leaving you utterly speechless. Everyone else is out there desperately searching for these scrolls, yet this one just flew straight into your lap. What kind of twisted luck is this? Simultaneously, several figures materialized before you. Judging by their hostile posturing, they were clearly 2 opposing factions. One side shrouded in ethereal righteousness, the other in suffocating demonic malice. Unsurprisingly, another tiresome clash between good and evil. What should we do? The maid's eyes betrayed no fear. As someone hailing from the Qingfeng Pavilion, she surely possessed a way to signal for reinforcements. You shook your head. They are here to fight their own battles. What does that have to do with us? Let's go. Let's continue our stroll. Just as you turned to leave, both groups blocked your path. A young, arrogant, demonic cultivator sneered. Brat, hand over the scroll beneath your feet. Here we go again. This wretched sense of familiarity makes me want to grit my teeth in frustration. You find it truly incomprehensible. Why does everyone insist on coming to you just to seek out their own demise? If you have such energy, go find the Child of Destiny. Can't you go cause trouble for him instead? Why must you all cling to me like this? Your look of resentful exhaustion caught the young demonic cultivator off guard. He quickly regained his composure, his voice turning ice cold. Begging for mercy will avail you nothing. I tell you now, that item does not belong to you. Hand it over obediently, and I shall spare your life. The faction representing the righteous path stepped forward, leveling a furious glare at the demonic cultivator. Dream on. This earthly scroll is not something you demonic scum can covet. Have you no shame, you thick-skinned wretches? Ha ha! The demonic group erupted in laughter, the young man clearly serving as their leader. He mocked the righteous cultivator with a sneering gaze. The rules set by your own supreme elder are clear. Whoever obtains one of the 3 scrolls gains the chance to become her disciple. Now that I have the earthly scroll, is your noble Tianshuan sacred ground going to defy your own elder's command? Facing this taunt, the righteous cultivator did not waver. Instead, he responded with a chilling laugh. We certainly cannot defy the orders of the Supreme Elder, but do not forget Chilean City has its own immutable laws. Cultivators are strictly forbidden from engaging in armed conflict. As for the distribution of treasures, whoever keeps an item within a 1-foot radius of themselves holds absolute ownership, and no one is permitted to plunder it. Linga Ocean, do you intend to shatter the sacred laws of Chilean City? The young demonic cultivator, known as Linga Ocean, was momentarily stunned, but quickly recoiled, locking his cold, murderous gaze upon you. What is the meaning of that look in your eyes? Are you feeling indignant? Make your move then. If you dare not strike, hand over that manual, or suffer the consequences of your defiance. Boom! Before Linga Ocean could finish his sentence, a pale fist hammered mercilessly into his face. His entire body was sent hurtling through the air like a cannonball, crashing violently into the distance. Seeing this, the group of demonic cultivators accompanying him could no longer restrain their fury. Insolent brat, are you seeking death? They swarmed forward like a maddened hive of hornets, yet your figure vanished instantly from their sight, followed by a rhythmic series of heavy thuds as every single one of them suffered the same fate as Linga Ocean. The handmaiden sent from Qingfeng Pavilion watched with eyes wide in disbelief. Back at the pavilion, even when you struck down the disciples of the Nine-Life Sword sect, the Qingfeng Pavilion suppressed the incident to prevent news from leaking, thus avoiding any violation of the city's laws. But to strike so brazenly in broad daylight before such a crowd, after her initial shock she hesitated no longer and drew forth a jade transmission talisman. With a soft whisper, the talisman ignited into a streak of light and vanished into the city streets. Meanwhile, the members of the Jiaoguang sacred land stood frozen in place. They held no love for these demonic cultivators, yet they dared not break the ironclad rules of Chilean City themselves. It was the frantic struggle between those 2 factions that caused the Earth Manual to fall at your feet. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect someone to flagrantly trample upon the laws of Chilean City today. A light breeze stirred as the members of the Jiaoguang sacred land stepped forward. Their leader, a young cultivator, stepped directly before you and offered a respectful bow. Young master, I am Zuo Yuanfei. I am grateful for your timely intervention, but it would be wise for you to depart at once. Before the enforcement squad arrives, Zuo Yuanfei gritted his teeth as if reaching a firm resolution. When they arrive, I shall assist you in stalling them. While there is still time, flee. But before his words could fade, a chilling voice echoed through the square. Brother Zuo, you possess such magnificent spirit. Do you truly intend to sacrifice yourself to save another, nursing a tiger at your side? However, this Chilean city is hardly a tiger's den, and there is no need for such dramatic measures. Upon hearing this, Zuo Yuanfei's face drained of color. He turned, and sure enough, a squad of soldiers in azure robes, the enforcers of Chilean City, had arrived. Zuo Yuanfei wore a bitter smile. He had finally steeled his resolve, only for the guards to appear at the most inconvenient moment. The commander stepped forward, eyeing you with a look of predatory intrigue. It was clear he was fascinated by anyone bold enough to shed blood within the walls of Chilean City. A transgressor of such caliber had certainly captured his undivided attention. Wait, hold your hand. At that exact moment, the steward of Qingfeng Pavilion arrived on the scene. Seeing his arrival, the enforcer commander looked visibly surprised. Could it be that you are one of Qingfeng Pavilion's own? But the very next second, the steward's words left him even more astonished. Commander Long, this young master has only just arrived in Chilean City, and thus is unfamiliar with our local customs. The fault lies primarily with us at Qingfeng Pavilion for failing to brief him on the regulations. I implore you, Commander, to show mercy. Having heard this, the enforcer known as Commander Long looked at you with renewed, intense interest. He might have been ignorant of other territories, but he had patrolled Chilean City for years and understood every hidden power structure within its walls. That the Qingfeng Pavilion would stand up to shoulder the burden for an ordinary guest was an absolute impossibility. Just what kind of situation was unfolding here? Either this person held a status so exalted that even the Qingfeng Pavilion dared not offend him, or the pavilion had a desperate need of him. Either way, it proved that the pavilion held you in high esteem. Commander Long turned his gaze back to you and asked, "Is what the steward claims the truth?" At his question, you simply raised your hand and pointed toward the pile of unconscious demonic cultivators scattered in the distance. As for the rules within Chilean City, I am not particularly well versed, but there is one thing you perhaps do not know. They literally threw their faces into my hand. I couldn't have stopped them even if I wanted to. Upon hearing this, Lord Long suddenly erupted into a boisterous laugh. "Haha, you are quite interesting. It has been a long time since I have encountered someone as amusing as you. Very well, this time I shall let it slide. Naturally, I can offer you a piece of intelligence free of charge." The rabble you just dismantled were lackeys of the Wanmo sect. You had best watch your back. Having said that, Lord Long left, leaving the rest of the crowd stunned in his wake. Only you seem to have predicted this outcome, your expression devoid of any genuine surprise. Just moments ago, as soon as Lord Long appeared, you activated the Eye of Truth. Upon inspection, the four characters' plot villain manifested before your eyes, confirming his true nature. You and he could be considered brothers in arms. Naturally, a villain would not make things difficult for another, especially when it is a role ordained by the plot itself. Thus, you were certain that no disaster would befall you this day. Zuo Yuanfei, standing nearby, stepped forward. Young master, I apologize for failing to assist you in time. It is a pity my voice carries little weight, to which you felt no resentment. In this chaotic world, merely refraining from kicking a man when he is down is kindness enough, especially since he had previously insisted on remaining to guard the rear guard. Just as you and Manager Qian prepared to depart, Zuo Yuanfei retrieved the book from the ground and approached you. Young master, I have yet to inquire after your honorable name. You responded with a profound air, meeting is a matter of destiny. A name is but a hollow title. Do not be so obsessed with outward appearances. Destiny brings us together, and that is enough. Zuo Yuanfei whispered these words to himself, instantly sensing the profound cultivation depth of the man before him. He asked no further questions, instead offering the mysterious book with both hands. For a heaven-defying genius such as yourself, only you are worthy of possessing this tome. The Earth Tome has chosen its master. I implore you, do not refuse. With that, Zuo Yuanfei attempted to force the Earth Tome into your hands, but you recoiled, staring at him in utter disbelief. How rich! I didn't save you, yet I saved you from a predicament, and this is how you repay me. You are a dignified disciple of the Holy Land, yet you treat me like this? If I were to become a disciple of that Piao Miao elder, would I not become the talk of the entire cultivation world? And when the Son of Destiny comes seeking blood, what am I supposed to do? Seeing you repeatedly backing away, Zuo Yuanfei grew frantic. What are you implying? The Earth Tome has a spirit and has chosen its master. If you do not accept it, no one else can pry it open. You glanced at Zuo Yuanfei's desperate state, and with the passing crowd beginning to point fingers, your scalp began to crawl. Stop, cease this at once, a grown man acting so pathetically? With a look of utter helplessness, you sighed. To spare you further trouble, I shall keep this Earth Tome for now. Should a righteous cultivator ever gather both the Heaven and Earth Tomes, I shall return this to them. Does that satisfy you? Zuo Yuanfei witnessed the gravity in your expression. He gritted his teeth and declared, Fine, let it be as the Taoist brother dictates, and upon his agreement you exhaled, reaching out to accept the artifact. Then, a sudden, earth-shattering transformation occurred. Boom! The Earth Tome erupted in blinding radiance, and an oppressive ancient aura instantly crushed the entire Chilean city. Lord Long, who had already departed, felt the surge of power, and his eyes narrowed in grave intensity. The cultivators within the city were oblivious to the cause, feeling only an irresistible urge to drop to their knees. That's the one at the center of the storm. You were even more bewildered. You were just trying to hold a book. What in the heavens is this? Zuo Yuanfei's eyes widened to the point of popping. The three tomes, Heaven, Earth, and Man, are merely records of the great Tao's manifestation. They possess no such spirit of their own, so how could they unleash such a terrifying aura? At that very moment, two sharp whistles pierced the air as the city's defensive formation was shredded by two streaks of light. Both lights descended directly before you. As you looked closer, you realized they were books, one inscribed with Heaven, and with the Earth Tome already in your hand, you possessed two of the three legendary artifacts. You stood there, utterly incredulous. What is the meaning of this? You had only just touched the Earth Tome, and now the Heaven and Human Tomes had arrived on their own accord. Zuo Yuanfei instantly realized the truth, stammering in shock. Taoist brother, congratulations. The three tomes possess divine intent and have chosen their master. It seems this is your fated destiny. You shot an annoyed glare at Zuo Yuanfei. You call this destiny? Could it be that this is nothing more than an elaborate trap? Even a child of Providence must endure life or death trials, leaping into bottomless chasms or suffering near-fatal wounds to claim their destined fortune. As a mere villain, I am lucky if I am not robbed of my own opportunities by such a protagonist. How could a stroke of fortune like this simply fall into my lap? There is undoubtedly a hidden agenda lurking beneath this situation. With that thought, you address Zuo Yuanfei. Brother Zuo, in truth, I already have a master. Defecting to another sect is hardly the conduct of a gentleman. I see you possess extraordinary talent, one perfectly suited for this position. Perhaps it is better you become the personal disciple of the Supreme Elder instead. You immediately activate your Heaven's Eye to pierce through the facade. The moment you do, you are struck with such shock that you can hardly believe your own eyes. The person standing before you bears the blinding, golden inscription of Child of Providence etched across his forehead. You stare at Zuo Yuanfei in silence. Without a second thought, you shove the three Heaven, Earth, and Mortal manuals into his chest. You signal for Manager Qian and Xiao Cui to abandon this chaotic scene at once. Remaining here a moment longer is surely inviting disaster. But at that very moment, Lord Long returns, his oppressive aura locking onto both you and Zuo Yuanfei. It seems you will not be departing so easily today. Insolent brat, you clearly harbor secrets. I shall drag you back to the city lord's manor and use the art of soul extraction to tear the truth from your wretched corpse. His voice drips with disdain, a condescension that ignites your fury. Does he truly believe he can paint you whatever color he pleases? Do you take me for a puppet to be toyed with? Boom! With your roar of defiance, his suffocating pressure instantly dissolves into nothingness. Mysterious black runes coil around your body like living serpents, and your eyes, once deep like tranquil pools, transform into dual-pupiled legendary eyes. The onlookers gasp in collective terror as they witness the manifestation of the dual pupils. The legendary dual pupils of the ancients? Watching your blossoming killing intent, Lord Long merely sneers. Brat, are you actually planning to lay a hand on me? I heard your cultivation realm was merely at the spirit-severing stage, is that correct? While I know not what method you use to mask your true power, there is no doubt that whatever secret you hold will soon belong to me. Ignoring his taunts, you instantly trigger the Heaven Burial technique, a forbidden art that destroys 1,000 enemies at the cost of 800 of your own vitality. And with a flash of light, a jagged black greatsword materializes in your grip. At this sight, a flicker of genuine shock crosses Lord Long's expression. He never imagined that this ant, whom he deemed fit only for crushing, could unleash power formidable enough to warrant his caution. You push your strength to its absolute limit, gripping the black blade with both hands as you unleash a devastating strike toward Lord Long. The black sword carves a razor-sharp arc through the void, shattering space itself until the entire sky is swallowed by a creeping, suffocating darkness. Confronted by such force, Lord Long lets out a feral roar of rage. Insolent fool! It seems I underestimated you, yet no matter what forbidden arts you employ, you remain nothing but a pathetic ant. As his words fade, his robes are shredded to rags, revealing a monstrous steel-like physique beneath. Scales erupt across his skin, and in an instant, a colossal serpent towers over the entirety of Chilean City. This heaven-shrouding behemoth looms over every witness. The serpent's tongue flickers like a crimson flame, spewing waves of stagnant, pungent miasma into the air. But what draws the eye most is the crown of its armored head. A single jagged black horn protrudes from its skull. It is the undeniable mark of a near-completed dragon transformation. So this, then, is the true form of the noble Lord Long. The great serpent lashes its massive tail, striking at you with the force of an avalanche. Crash! Dark spiritual energy erupts, flooding every corner of Chilean City with suffocating power. This single strike from Lord Long completely pulverizes your sword aura. Your apocalyptic strike dissipates as it collides with his hide. Your blade merely scatters a few sparks against his scales before leaving no mark at all. You cannot even break my scales. How can you possibly dream of killing me? With a thunderous hiss, the great serpent of the void opens its maw, preparing to swallow you whole. Your expression twists into a look of madness. Facing the gaping abyss of his throat, you remain fearless. I have already invoked the Heaven Burial technique, and you still dream of walking away unscathed? That is nothing but a fool's errand. You snap your fingers together, and with a resounding boom, a terrifying aura detonates from your body. A mark is carved into the very fabric of the void, and from it, an ancient obsidian coffin begins to emerge. Upon the black coffin, carved with the patterns of a primordial universe, ancient runic seals of darkness coiled and swirled around the casket's frame. An aura of decay and profound corruption seeped outward, relentlessly suffocating every inch of your physical form. In a blink, your silhouette flickered with blinding speed, narrowly evading the massive, sky-obliterating maw of the beast, before you unleashed a devastating downward strike with your blade upon the serpent. Within the serpent's vertical pupils, a divine light ignited, and a draconic roar shattered the silence of the heavens. It twisted its colossal body, lunging forward with earth-shattering force. Your dragon's might, a pressure that suppresses all sentient life, merged with the void as the black coffin collided violently against the serpent. Boom! The impact hammered directly into your chest with bone-crushing force. The sickening sound of snapping bone echoed in your ears. Blood drenched your dark robes, while a glint of smug triumph flickered in the serpent's reptilian eyes. Yet, in that very instant, you hurled your black blade into the firmament, the weapon transforming into a streak of light that pierced deep into the heart of the black coffin. Just as Lord Long remained bewildered by your intent, the black coffin plummeted toward his cranium. Sensing the breath of primordial decay, terror seized Lord Long's heart. He attempted to retreat, only to realize his body was paralyzed, anchored in place. The serpent's vertical eye peered up at you. Though your face was masked in blood, your lips curled into a grin, your expression radiating a feral, unchecked madness. You drove your hands deep, clutching tightly onto the scales of the gargantuan serpent. With such raw, savage strength, your 10 fingers pierced straight through the reinforced armor of its scales. The dark runes erupting from your body wove themselves into chains, binding the serpent tightly in midair. Clang, the black coffin, radiating a power capable of unmaking the world, descended without mercy. The heavy, archaic reverberations rippled outward, sending shockwaves through the air. The earth trembled, and countless structures within the Chichluyan city began to buckle. The entire perimeter wall was pulverized by the sheer magnitude of the impact. The black coffin slammed directly into the apex of the giant serpent's head. The clear, visceral sound of shattering bone rang out, as the serpent's horn was pulverized into dust under the crushing weight. The creature was launched like a cannonball, smashing into the ground with such force that it carved a massive crater into the earth. You, meanwhile, were tossed aside like a tattered rag, landing heavily on the ground nearby. Cough, cough, that nearly killed me. You stumbled to your feet, while Manager Qian and Zuo Yuanfei, sensing the shift in momentum, emerged from cover. Zuo Yuanfei and the others rushed toward you. They stood frozen, utterly paralyzed by the scene unfolding before them. Lord Long, a powerhouse at the Saint King realm, had been bested by the youth before him, his dragon horn shattered to pieces. What kind of monstrous feat was this? Zuo Yuanfei inhaled sharply, his voice trembling as he spoke to you. Brother Z, are you all right? You turned back, speaking with effortless calm. Why have you come here? Leave at once. That bastard is barely wounded. Be careful, or you will be dragged into this mess. Young master, Xiao Cui whispered, deeply moved that you remained concerned for her safety despite your own grave injuries. Zuo Yuanfei gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening. Brother Z, these 3 volumes of heaven, earth, and man are what the elders of the Piao sect have sought for ages. It is precisely because of these relics that you have drawn the ire of Lord Long. My cultivation may be lacking, but I understand the principles of honor. To abandon you now would be no better than living like a beast. Death is preferable to such cowardice. Manager Chen stood to the side in thought, his expression of hesitation slowly giving way to a weary sigh. Young master, you are a distinguished guest of our Qingfeng pavilion. With this old man here, how could I allow harm to befall you? I have already sent word to my superiors, and they shall arrive momentarily. Until then, I will stand with you and hold off this Lord Long. Rumble! The ground shook violently, and from the depths of the crater, the figure of Lord Long burst forth. He was a wretched sight, covered in thick dust, his brow split open, his horn snapped, and a jagged bone protruding. With a face dark as a gathering storm, he paced toward you, his voice cold. You shall suffer a death beyond reckoning. To ascend as a dragon, one must first grow the scales of a python. You have shattered the foundation he spent lifetimes gathering to reach that divine transformation. His millennial dream has crumbled into nothingness in an instant. Consumed by murderous rage, Lord Long let out a deafening roar, his hand morphing into a jagged claw as he lunged, his overwhelming spiritual pressure instantly scattering Guan Shiqian, Xiao Cui, Zuo Yuanfei, and the others. Though your bones are fractured and your body battered, you remain standing, upright and unyielding. Facing the jaws of death without a flicker of fear, Lord Long's face twisted into a cruel sneer, already savoring the moment he would tear you asunder. Die, you insolent whelp! Once you breathe your last, I will extract every hidden secret from your corpse, piece by agonizing piece. But just as his lethal claw hovered inches from your chest, the world fell into an eerie, unnatural silence. Lord Long froze mid-stride, held captive by an unseen force, unable to move a single muscle. The malevolent, twisted grin remained etched upon his face, now frozen in time. His razor-sharp claws were mere hair's breadth from your heart, yet that distance had become an impassable abyss. The realization sent a shockwave of pure terror through his soul. He knew that a Saint Realm cultivator could exert control over space, but to bring the very flow of time to a standstill was impossible for mortals. To silence both time and space simultaneously, such a feat of godlike power was beyond any ordinary practitioner. There was another master present. Lord Long's eyes darted around like a cornered viper, but upon turning his head, he stood paralyzed with shock. Without a sound, a woman had appeared, standing resolutely between you and your attacker. Gazing at the ethereal, otherworldly grace of her silhouette, you were struck breathless, whispering instinctively, "Master?" Upon hearing your voice, she turned. The cold, icy frost of her expression melted into a gentle radiance, a smile that felt like the first warm breeze of spring. "Little one, have you not yet performed the rite of apprenticeship, yet you dare call me master?" Stunned, your mind raced with a flurry of unanswered questions. Her transcendent aura was identical to Mo Yushang. What was her connection to the master you once knew? At that moment, Zuo Yuanfei and the Yaoguang disciples bowed deeply, trembling as they whispered, "Grand Elder." The title struck Lord Long with disbelief. He stammered, "Are you the great elder of the Piao Miao sect?" The Piao Miao elder's eyes locked onto him with glacial intensity. "Do you intend to lay a finger on my disciple?" Lord Long was so incensed he nearly choked on his own laughter. "Piao Miao elder, you must be joking. I know this brat's history well. If I am not mistaken, he was a Zixiao disciple cast out by Mo Yuxiang of the Tianquan Holy Land. How could he possibly be yours?" "Are you questioning me?" Her voice was calm, yet the mere sound of it sent tremors racking through Lord Long's entire reptilian form. He felt a killing intent so chilling, it reached his very marrow. Grand Elder, this junior would never dare. But as a sovereign of the Holy Land, surely you have an accord with our city lord prohibiting violence within Chilean City? Before Lord Long could even finish his plea, a crushing pressure descended upon him, forcing the rest of his words back down his throat. His knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the ground, broken. Lord Long clenched his teeth, swallowing his pride and falling into a deathly silence. If he dared to utter another syllable, death would be a mercy he would never receive. Seeing this, a wave of relief washed over you. Witnessing his defeat brought a surge of satisfaction to your heart. Though you knew not why this mysterious elder would protect you, now was the perfect moment to strike while your enemy was down. Before acting, you cast a cautious questioning glance toward the ethereal beauty. Grand Elder, you will stand by me, won't you? The Piao elder offered a faint, reassuring smile and gave a gentle nod. With newfound confidence, you strode toward the kneeling Lord Long and unleashed a barrage of slaps directly across his face. Were you not feeling quite arrogant before? Go on, continue your display of pride. Lord Long's face burned with searing pain, his eyes bloodshot with rage, yet he remained trapped by the invisible force, utterly unable to retaliate. All he could think of now was escaping this absolute humiliation. A wise man knows revenge is a dish best served cold, and he was nothing if not calculating. Once he found his opening, he would make you pay for this with your life. The secret potential hidden within you was a prize so vast it both terrified and tempted him. Perhaps, if he played his cards right, he could recover the losses he suffered from his shattered dragonhorn. With this thought, Lord Long forced himself to stabilize his emotions, lifting his head to gaze at you. Speak your terms, whatever you desire I shall, but his words were cut short. A sudden, bone-chilling sensation pierced through his very soul. Lord Long looked down in utter disbelief at his own chest, where a blade had been driven deep into his heart. As Lord Long looked up to meet your icy gaze, he realized too late that he had gravely underestimated you. You tightened your grip on the hilt and twisted the blade with force, unleashing a surge of corrosive, necrotic power. Lord Long felt an agony beyond description, as if 10,000 ants were gnawing away at his very core. As he let out a guttural cry of pain, you wore a chilling smile. We are both villains, and I know your kind. If you do not die, I shall never find peace.
Lord Long.
Lord Long trembled, his finger pointing feebly toward you. Amidst his final agonizing scream, he dissolved into nothing but scattered dust. In that very instant, the entire city began to shudder violently. At the heart of the city, fissures erupted across the earth, as if something ancient and buried was struggling to emerge. Boom! A thunderous explosion tore the ground asunder, and a colossal, thorn-covered hand erupted from the depths of the abyss. The moment that hand broke through, the very fabric of space began to collapse. It was as if the heavens themselves forbade this creature from awakening, while the earth wailed in a sorrowful, mournful tremor. The massive hand ascended, rising higher and higher until it eclipsed both the city walls and the vast expanse of the sky. Without hesitation, the hand descended, slamming down toward your exact position with world-shattering force. Facing an aura of such absolute annihilation, the cultivators of every major faction within Chilean City fell into the depths of despair. Yet in that precise moment, a clear, resonant voice echoed across the heavens. How dare you? A figure in a shimmering white dress fluttered in the gale. A hand, delicate as jade, struck lightly toward the sky, the blood from her wounds staining her black robes crimson. At merely 18 years of age, you are already the peerless genius of the 9 provinces continent.